The most common punctuation marks in English are full stops, question marks, commas, colons and semicolons, exclamation marks and quotation marks. There are rules of punctuation that have to be followed, but there are also punctuation conventions that give writers greater choice. Here are some of the punctuation conventions. Full stop. We use full stops to mark the end of a sentence. We went to Paris last summer. We also use full stops in initial for personal names as shown in the sample. Full stops are also used after abbreviations, although this practice is becoming less common. Question mark. We use question mark at the end of a question. Did you visit her last night? Exclamation mark. We use exclamation mark to indicate a strong feeling or expression in informal writing. Listen. Ouch. I cut my finger. Comma. We use commas to separate a list of similar words or phrases. It's important to write in clear, simple, accurate words. We do not normally use a comma before and at the end of a list of single words. They traveled through Bulgaria, Slovakia, the Czech Republic and Poland. American English does use a comma in lists before and. We took bread, cheese, and fruit with us. We use commas to separate words or phrases that mark where the voice would pause slightly. I can't tell you now. However, all will be revealed tomorrow at midday. When main clauses are separated by and or but, we don't normally use a comma if the clauses have the same subject. However, we sometimes use commas if the clauses have different subjects. They were very friendly and invited us to their villa in Portugal. It was an expensive hotel in the center of Stockholm, but we decided it was worth the money. When a subordinate clause comes before the main clause, we commonly use a comma to separate the clauses. However, we do not always do this in short sentences. If you get lost in the city center, please don't hesitate to text us or phone us. If you get lost, just phone us. When we use subordinate or non-finite comment clauses to give further details or more information, we commonly use commas to separate the clauses. You do need to wear a darker jacket, if I may say so. To be honest, I thought they were very rude. We use commas to mark non-defining clauses. Such clauses normally add extra, non-essential information about the noun or noun phrase. The ambulance, which arrived after just 5 minutes, took 3 people to the hospital immediately. Hong Kong, where the first company meeting was held, is a very different city now. The same is true for non-finite clauses. The storm, lasting as it did for several days, caused serious damage to villages near the coast. We commonly separate tags and yes, no responses with commas. They are going to the party, aren't they? We also usually separate vocatives, discourse markers and interjections with commas. Open the door for them, Kaylee, can you? Thanks. Well, what do you think we should do about it? Wow, that sounds really exciting. We use commas to show that direct speech is following or has just occurred. He said in his opening speech, now is the time to plan for the future. When the direct speech is first, we use a comma before the closing of the quotation marks. We don't want to go on holiday to the same place every year, he said impatiently. Colons. We use colons to introduce lists. There are 3 main reasons for the success of the government: economic, social and political. We also use colons to indicate a subtitle or to indicate a subdivision of a topic. Life in province, a personal view. We often use colons to introduce direct speech. Then he said, I really cannot help you in any way. We commonly use a colon between sentences when the second sentence explains or justifies the first sentence. Try to keep your flat clean and tidy, it will sell more easily. We use semicolons instead of full stops to separate 2 main clauses. In such cases, the clauses are related in meaning, but are separated grammatically. Spanish is spoken throughout South America. In Brazil, the main language is Portuguese. Quotation marks. In direct speech, we enclose what is said within a pair of single or double quotation marks, although single quotation marks are becoming more common. Direct speech begins with a capital letter and can be preceded by a comma or a colon. She said, "Where can we find a nice Indian restaurant?" Or, she said, "Where can we find a nice Indian restaurant?" We can put the reporting clause in 3 different positions. Note the position of commas and full stops here. The fitness trainer said, "Don't try to do too much when you begin." Don't try to do too much when you begin, the fitness trainer said. Comma before closing quotation mark. Don't try to do too much, the fitness trainer said, when you begin. When we use direct speech inside direct speech, we use either single quotation marks inside double quotation marks, or double quotation marks inside single quotation marks. It was getting really cold, he said, and they were saying, "When can we go back home?" Jaya said, they were getting really excited and were shouting, "Come on." We also use single quotation marks to draw attention to a word. We can use quotation marks in this way when we want to question the exact meaning of the word. I am very disappointed by his apology. I don't think he meant it at all. New war over North Sea fishing plans. We sometimes use quotation marks to refer to the titles of books, newspapers, magazines, films, songs, poems, videos, CDs, etc. There's a special report all about it in the Daily Mail. We can use italics instead of quotation marks for these citations. There's a special report all about it in the Daily Mail. Articles or chapters within books, or titles of short stories, are normally punctuated by single quotation marks. The longest chapter in the book is the last one called, "The Future of Africa."